Okay, so we're going to start having a look at iteration and how we can use iteration to solve all different types of equations. It's a kind of a trial and improvement method, but it's a real difficult process in terms of how the notation is written. But actually, once you get to terms with how you're using your calculator and that you can use it accurately and quickly, it actually makes them much easier to find an estimate of the solution. Okay, so first thing, you're going to need to have a scientific calculator in front of you. Majority of you will probably have a Casio one, so it will be similar to this one. And it's just making sure that you know where the key buttons are and how you use them. Okay, so the first button that I want to highlight to your attention is this one here. Okay, which is your square root button. So obviously that one's going to be useful. The next one that I want you to make sure that you can use is the one that's got the box over the box. So that's the fraction button. So that one's going to be particularly useful. You may also need to use the cube root button. Okay, so that's the little symbol that looks like this one. And you have to press Shift on your calculator, which is here. So the Shift button is that one there. And then it's actually the square root. So you do the Shift and the square root button to get the cube root button. So you can see it written just above it at this point here. Okay, so they're all really useful buttons to use. And I think the most important button that you're going to need for iteration is actually this answer button at the bottom. Okay, so just make sure you've located all of them before you start having a look at the questions with me. Right, so have a read through the question, think about what's easy and what's difficult with this particular type of question, and then I will show you how to go through it. You may want to write it down and hit pause while you're doing that, and then hit play when you're ready for me to talk you through it. Okay, so we're asked to find a solution to the equation 2x minus x cubed plus 9 equals 0 by using this iterative formula. Now, the iterative formula can look a little bit confusing with these extra things in it where you've got the n plus 1s and the xo's, etc. Don't let that put you off and make you think it's harder than it is. Very much like you've been working on the graph questions, this is the formula that we're going to use. And wherever there is an x, we're going to put the x in a bracket. And then we're going to make sure that we can use our calculator accurately and try and get used to the notation that we're using in which to solve these problems. But we're going to get there as quickly and as easily as possible. So this has to be done with a calculator. It is not something you can try and do in your head. So don't let this notation confuse you. Okay, so we can just ignore that. The bit that we're going to say though is we're going to start with x0 and that equals 2. So I'm just going to write that down over here. I know x0 equals 2. That means I'm going to put this 2 in where that bracket is. And that's going to help me work out the next term, which is x1. And to do that, you're going to press the cube root button on your calculator. So remember that is the Shift square root. You're then going to have 2 brackets, and then this 2 we're going to pop inside the bracket, add 9. All of that needs to be within the square root, and when you hit the equals button, you'll end up with a really long decimal. Okay, so you've got the cube root of 2 bracket 2, close bracket, plus 9, hit equals, and you end up with 2.35133 and so on. But we're actually asked to find the solution correct to 3 decimal places. So I need to then round this to 3 decimal places. So that 3 tells me that I don't need to round it up, so I'm going to leave it alone. So my solution at this point is 2.351. Okay, I'm not finished. So this is the next really important bit. Do not clear anything on your calculator. If you have, you need to go back and retype this in for me, so that you've got that really long decimal number. You're going to need to use that really long decimal number with each step of the calculation. However, we can make life that little bit easier. Using the arrow keys, you can go back to the formula that you've typed in, and I want you to go back to the bracket part. So everything else needs to stay exactly as it is, but go back to the bracket part and hit the answer button in there. So that was the one on the bottom row that I showed you. So you pop the answer button in there, and you hit equals at that point, and it will give you another answer. So we end up with 2.3929 and so on. And remember, I need to round that to 3 decimal places. So I end up with 2.393. Okay, now what I'm looking for to be able to get a solution is for the two answers that I have to be exactly the same in a row. So I've got 2.351 and 2.393. They're not the same, in which case I need to continue. Now to work out the third one, this is where it now becomes really easy. You just need to hit the equals button. So as long as you hit the equals button and be very careful that you only hit it once, and then you'll get your next solution at this point. So I make it 2.39779. And when I round that one to my 3 decimal places, I get 2.398. So at this point, I've got 2.393 and 2.398. They don't match. So this wasn't my solution, nor was that one. And I'm going to do it again to find the fourth potential answer. And again, I just need to hit the equals button. And at this point, I end up with 2.39835. When I round this one to 3 decimal places, I get 2.398. Oh, look, these two are exactly the same. So this is my solution. Okay, so my solution to 3 decimal places at the end is x equals 2.398. Now, in an exam, you are expected to show all of your methods. So I'm expecting you to do that as you're working through each of the questions on this one. Okay, so you have to show your method. Remember, you'll keep rounding things to 3 decimal places. You use the answer button after you've done the first calculation, and then it becomes much easier by hitting equals after that. And as soon as you get 2 answers that are rounded to the correct number of decimal places as specified in the question, then you've got the final solution. We're going to have a look at one more just to make sure that you're a little bit more confident with it. So we've got this one here. So it's a slightly trickier equation. Now, don't worry about the fact that in the equation, they tell you about the x cubed minus 10x minus 4 equals 0. We will look at potentially how you can rearrange that to get the iterative formula, but it's the formula that's important. Okay, remember these little bits of notation are just there to confuse you a little bit, so don't worry about them. This is the formula that we need to use. In the question, they will tell you what your starting value is. So we know x0 equals 1. Remember, in the formula, the x must be in a bracket, and we can just ignore that n down the bottom there. So to work out x1, I need to push the square root button first, then 10 plus your fraction button of 4, and then in the brackets, I'm going to put that 1. So remember, that starting value is the first thing that I'm going to put in my bracket here. And then you can just hit equals to work out what it is. So again, the square root of 10 plus fraction button 4 over bracket 1, close bracket, hit equals, and it comes out with root 14. Okay, but root 14 doesn't really help me in terms of understanding what the decimal is. So you can use that S with the arrows D button, so that converts between thirds and decimals. And that will then tell you you have 3.74165. And remember, in this question, again, it wants me to round it to 3 decimal places. So 3.742. Okay. However, 1 and 3.742 are not the same, so I need to go again. So this time, my second solution, remember this is the point you can use your answer button, so don't clear it. The square root of 10 plus 4 over, so use the arrow keys to go back and put answer in that bracket. And at that point, you can then hit equals, and you will get 3.3270, etc. And again, round that to 3 decimal places, you get 3.327. Well, at this point, 3.327 and 3.742 are not the same, and therefore we need to do another one. But remember, at this point, for finding the third one, I just need to hit the equals button on the calculator, and it will give me a solution then of 3.34698, etc. Round that one, and I get 3.347, because the 9's going to round it up there, but 3.347 and 3.327 are not the same, so I'm not finished. So I'm going to do the same thing again, work out the fourth one, hit the equals button on the calculator, and I end up with 3.3459, and so on. So when I round this one, I've got 3.346. So just be careful again, that's 9's rounded it up. 3.347 and 3.346 are not the same, so I've still got to go again. So my fifth one, again, hit the equals button on the calculator, and I end up with 3.34596, and so on. Round this one to 3 decimal places, and I get 3.346. Now 3.346, 3.346 are the same, so therefore my solution, correct to 3 decimal places at this point, is 3.346. Okay, so you've got a set of loop cards to have a go at. So remember, you can do them the same as you would in class. You don't need to print them, but what you need to do is start on one of the cards, work out the answer, and then write down the letters as you're going through so that you can follow through how many you got correct at the end. If you do need any help with anything, then please give me a shout.